Hello, and welcome back. I'm glad you found your way here again tonight. There's nothing you need to do right now except settle in and let your body grow heavy against the bed. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts loosen their grip on the day, the way a hand slowly opens. Tonight we're drifting across the wine-dark sea to ancient Greece, a land of marble temples, philosophers, and gods, set to watch quietly from a mountain wrapped in cloud. Some of what you hear tonight may surprise you. Some of it may simply settle over you like warm evening air, familiar and strange all at once. If any of this helps you unwind, consider subscribing to Drowsy with Facts so you can drift off with us again soon. For now, let's begin. Ancient Greece was never a single unified nation the way we might picture a country today, but rather a scattered collection of independent city-states, each with its own government, army, and customs, sharing a common language and religion, while often competing and sometimes warring with one another. Two of the most famous of these city-states, Athens and Sparta, developed almost opposite ways of life. Athens grew into a center of philosophy, art, and early democracy, while Sparta built its entire society around rigorous military discipline, training its citizens for war from a very young age. Athenian democracy, often celebrated as an early ancestor of modern democratic systems, was considerably more limited than it might sound, extending voting rights only to free adult male citizens, while women, enslaved people, and foreign residents were excluded entirely from formal political participation. At the heart of Greek religious belief sat a family of gods said to live atop Mount Olympus, the tallest mountain in Greece. Its peaks so often wrapped in cloud that it seemed a fitting, mysterious home for beings believed to rule over sky, sea, and earth alike. Zeus, king of these Olympian gods, was associated with the sky and thunder, said to hurl lightning bolts when angered, ruling over both gods and mortals, with a temperament ancient storytellers described as powerful, occasionally wise, and often difficult to fully predict. Zeus's wife Hera held her own considerable domain as goddess of marriage and family, and many myths describe her quiet, determined efforts to outmaneuver her husband's frequent indiscretions, weaving her own storylines throughout much of Greek mythology. Poseidon, brother to Zeus, ruled over the sea, and Greek sailors prayed to him before any significant voyage, hoping to secure calm waters and safe passage, since his temper, according to myth, could summon storms just as easily as it could calm them. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, was said to have sprung fully grown and armored directly from the head of Zeus, and the city of Athens itself took her name after she won a legendary contest against Poseidon to become its patron deity. That same contest, according to myth, involved each god offering the city a gift, with Poseidon striking the ground to produce a spring of water, while Athena offered an olive tree, a gift the city's people judged more valuable, securing her the honor and the city's lasting name. Apollo, god of music, prophecy, and light, was closely associated with the famous oracle at Delphi, where a priestess was believed to deliver messages from the god himself. Her cryptic pronouncements sought out by kings and commoners alike before major decisions. That same oracle at Delphi held such enormous influence across the ancient Greek world that city-states frequently consulted it before declaring war, founding colonies, or making other major political decisions, treating his guidance with genuine, serious weight. Dionysus, god of wine, theater, and festivity, was honored through lively public celebrations that eventually gave rise to Greek theatrical tradition itself. The earliest recorded plays performed as part of religious festivals dedicated directly to him. Greek mythology described an underworld ruled by Hades, brother to Zeus and Poseidon, a realm of the dead that wasn't necessarily depicted as purely punishing, but simply as the quiet, inevitable destination for every mortal soul, regardless of how they had lived. According to myth, a great river separated the world of the living from the underworld, and the newly deceased were said to be ferried across by a boatman, provided their families had properly buried them with a coin to pay the fare. Greek mythology is filled with legendary heroes, and among the most famous, Heracles, known for his extraordinary strength, was tasked with completing 12 seemingly impossible labors as penance, tales that became some of the most widely retold adventures in the ancient world. Another celebrated hero, Odysseus, became the central figure of an epic poem describing his long, difficult journey home after a great war, facing monsters, storms, and temptation across 10 years of wandering before finally reaching his family again. The Trojan War itself, described in the earliest and most famous Greek epic poems, may be partly rooted in a real historical conflict, and archaeological excavations at a site in modern Turkey have revealed layered ancient settlements consistent with a city that could plausibly match ancient Troy. According to myth, that same long war was finally won through a clever trick: a massive hollow wooden horse offered as a supposed peace gift, secretly concealing soldiers who opened the city gates from within once night fell. Greek mythology also included a rich cast of monstrous creatures, among them a many-headed serpent whose heads would regrow if cut, a fearsome challenge faced by Heracles during one of his famous 12 labors. Medusa, a figure with living snakes for hair, was said to turn anyone who met her gaze directly to stone, and the hero Perseus was only able to defeat her by viewing her reflection in a polished shield rather than looking at her directly. The Minotaur, a creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull, was said to be trapped within an elaborate labyrinth on the island of Crete, eventually defeated by the hero Theseus with help navigating the maze using a simple thread unspooled behind him. Greek philosophy flourished alongside its mythology, and Athens in particular became home to some of history's most influential thinkers, whose ideas about ethics, logic, and the natural world continued shaping Western thought for well over 2,000 years afterward. Socrates, one of the earliest and most influential Greek philosophers, left behind no writings of his own, and nearly everything known about his teachings and famous method of questioning comes instead from the writings of his students. Plato, a student of Socrates, founded a school in Athens dedicated to philosophical study, and his own writings, often presented as dialogues between characters, remain foundational texts still studied in philosophy departments around the world today. Aristotle, in turn a student of Plato, went on to tutor a young prince who would later become one of history's most famous conquerors, expanding Greek influence and culture across an enormous stretch of the ancient world. Greek architecture developed distinctive, enormously influential column styles, And the elegant proportions of these designs continued inspiring builders for thousands of years afterward, echoed today in government buildings, museums, and monuments across the entire world. The Parthenon, a grand temple built atop the Acropolis in Athens and dedicated to Athena, was constructed with remarkable architectural precision, its columns subtly curved rather than perfectly straight, an intentional adjustment correcting for an optical illusion that would otherwise make straight columns appear to bow inward. Ancient Greek sculptors developed techniques for depicting the human body with a level of naturalism and idealized proportion that later Renaissance artists would study and directly draw inspiration from centuries afterward, as they revived classical artistic traditions. The ancient Olympic Games, held every 4 years in honor of Zeus at the sacred site of Olympia, brought together competitors from across the Greek world, and wars between rival city-states were said to be formally paused to allow athletes and spectators safe passage to the games. Ancient Olympic athletes competed entirely nude, a practice tied to Greek cultural attitudes celebrating the human body as an expression of excellence and divine favor, quite different from the elaborate uniforms associated with modern athletic competition. Winners at the ancient Olympics didn't receive gold medals, but instead were awarded a simple wreath woven from olive branches, along with considerable lasting fame and honor within their home city, sometimes including significant civic rewards and privileges. Greek theater developed two major dramatic traditions: tragedy and comedy, performed in large, open-air amphitheaters designed with such careful acoustic consideration that a performer's voice could reportedly carry clearly to the very back rows without any artificial amplification. Female roles in Greek theater were performed exclusively by male actors wearing masks, a practical and symbolic theatrical convention that also allowed a small cast to portray a much larger range of characters across a single performance. The Greek alphabet, developed from an earlier Phoenician writing system, introduced dedicated symbols for vowel sounds for the first time, an innovation that later directly influenced the Latin alphabet still used to write English and many other languages today. Ancient Greek scholars made remarkable early advances in mathematics and science, and a philosopher named Pythagoras is remembered today primarily through a geometric principle relating the sides of a right triangle, still taught in classrooms around the world. Another Greek scholar calculated the Earth's circumference with striking accuracy using nothing more than the differing angle of sunlight observed in two separate cities and some careful geometric reasoning, an achievement that still impresses historians of science today. Greek physicians developed early medical traditions grounded in careful observation rather than purely religious explanation. And the physician Hippocrates is still honored today through an ethical oath that continues in adapted form to be recited by many medical graduates. Ancient Greek city-states relied heavily on the sea for both trade and warfare, and their distinctive warships, powered by rows of oarsmen, were prized for their speed and maneuverability during naval battles across the Mediterranean. The city-state of Sparta maintained one of the most rigorous military training systems in the ancient world, and Spartan boys were removed from their families around the age of 7 to begin a demanding, lifelong education focused almost entirely on discipline and combat. Spartan society, unlike much of the rest of ancient Greece, also afforded women considerably more freedom in education, since a population of physically capable, well-prepared women was considered essential to managing the home front while men were away at war. The famous Battle of Thermopylae, where a small force of Greek soldiers, prominently including a contingent of Spartans, held off a vastly larger invading army for several days at a narrow mountain pass, became one of the most celebrated last stands in ancient military history. Greek colonists established settlements across an enormous stretch of the Mediterranean and Black Sea coastlines, spreading Greek language, religion, and culture to distant shores far beyond the Greek mainland itself. Ancient Greek pottery, painted with detailed scenes of mythology, daily life, and athletic competition, offers historians today one of the richest and most visually vivid records available of how ancient Greeks understood and depicted their own world. The Greek concept of hospitality carried deep religious weight, believed to be personally protected by Zeus himself, and refusing proper hospitality to a traveler or guest was considered a serious moral and even spiritual failing. Greek mythology described 9 goddesses known as the Muses, each associated with a different artistic or intellectual pursuit, from music and poetry to history and astronomy, believed to inspire mortal achievement in each of their respective domains. The word museum, still used today, traces its origin directly back to these same 9 goddesses, originally referring to a place or shrine specifically dedicated to their inspiration and worship. Ancient Greek symposiums, formal drinking parties typically reserved for men, combined wine, music, and philosophical conversation, serving as an important social setting where political and intellectual ideas were regularly discussed and debated late into the evening. Greek wine was typically diluted with water before drinking, and consuming wine completely undiluted was considered a sign of poor judgment or even barbarism, reserved culturally for excessive, socially frowned upon drinking. The city of Athens funded much of its ambitious building projects, including the Parthenon itself, using tribute collected from a wider alliance of Greek city-states originally formed for mutual defense, a financial arrangement that caused considerable resentment among some of its allied members. Ancient Greek education for boys from wealthier families typically included training in reading, writing, music, and athletics, reflecting a broader cultural ideal, balancing intellectual and physical development equally. Girls in ancient Greece, by contrast, generally received a much more limited formal education focused primarily on domestic skills, though this varied somewhat between different city-states, with Sparta again representing a notable exception. Ancient Greek religious festivals were frequent and often elaborate, combining public sacrifice, athletic competition, and theatrical performance into extended citywide celebrations, honoring specific gods throughout the calendar year. The Greek concept of fate held that even the gods themselves were ultimately bound by destinies determined by 3 goddesses who spun, measured, and finally cut the thread, representing each individual life, a power considered beyond even Zeus's ability to overturn. Greek mythology described a golden age in the distant past, a peaceful era before hardship and conflict, followed by successive ages of declining virtue, a recurring mythological pattern echoing themes found in the mythologies of several other ancient cultures as well. Pandora, according to myth, the first mortal woman crafted by the gods, was given a container she was warned never to open, and her eventual curiosity, opening it despite the warning, was said to release hardship and suffering into the previously untroubled human world. The story of Icarus, who fashioned wings from feathers and wax to escape imprisonment alongside his father, only to fly too close to the sun and fall when the wax melted, became an enduring cautionary tale about ambition and ignoring careful warning. Greek mythology's stories of transformation were numerous, and several myths describe mortals changed into trees, flowers, or constellations, often as a bittersweet resolution to tragic love stories or moments of divine punishment and mercy alike. The constellations themselves were closely tied to Greek mythology, and many of the star patterns still named and mapped today trace their names directly back to Greek heroes, creatures, and figures immortalized in the night sky, according to ancient storytelling. Ancient Greek city-states developed differing systems of government, and while Athens is remembered for early democracy, other city-states experimented with rule by a small group of elites, or in some periods, rule by a single powerful individual who had seized control. Greek historians, including one widely regarded as history's first true historian, began systematically recording and investigating past events, distinguishing their work from the purely mythological storytelling traditions that had come before. The Greek language eventually split into a number of regional dialects across the many scattered city-states and colonies, gradually unified later into a more standardized common form that spread widely following the conquests of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, tutored personally by Aristotle in his youth, went on to build one of the largest empires the ancient world had ever seen, spreading Greek language, culture, and architecture across a vast stretch of territory, reaching as far as modern-day India. Following Alexander's death, his enormous empire fractured among several of his generals, but the Greek cultural influence he had spread persisted for centuries afterward across the resulting kingdoms, an era historians now refer to as the Hellenistic period. The city of Alexandria in Egypt, founded by and named after Alexander himself, grew into one of the most significant centers of Greek learning and scholarship in the ancient world, home to the legendary library mentioned in an earlier episode of this very series. Ancient Greek mathematics extended well beyond simple geometry, and scholars developed early, sophisticated approaches to concepts like infinity, irrational numbers, and mathematical proof that continued influencing mathematical thought for well over 1,000 years afterward. The Greek theater tradition eventually produced masterful playwrights whose surviving tragedies and comedies are still performed and studied today. Their exploration of fate, justice, and human nature remaining remarkably resonant even across such an enormous span of time. Beyond the major gods already described, the full Olympian family included several others, among them Hermes, the swift messenger god associated with travelers, trade, and cunning, often depicted wearing winged sandals that allowed him to move between the mortal world and Olympus with remarkable speed. Ares, god of war, represented the chaotic, brutal side of battle, contrasting sharply with Athena's more strategic, disciplined approach to warfare, and Greek storytellers generally portrayed him with far less admiration and respect than most of the other Olympians received. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, was said in one popular version of her origin to have emerged fully formed from sea foam, and her presence throughout Greek mythology often set in motion romantic entanglements with consequences reaching far beyond the individuals directly involved. Artemis, twin sister to Apollo, ruled over the hunt, the wilderness, and the moon, fiercely protective of her independence, and myths describe her swift, sometimes severe punishment of anyone who disrespected her or violated the sanctity of nature under her protection. Hephaestus, the god of fire and craftsmanship, served as a skilled blacksmith for the other gods, forging weapons, armor, and magical objects within a legendary forge, often depicted as physically different from the other. Idealized Olympians in ancient artwork. Hestia, goddess of the hearth and home, held a quieter but deeply respected role in Greek religious life, honored first in household rituals before any other god, her presence symbolizing the warmth and stability at the center of every Greek family's daily life. Before the familiar Olympian gods ruled, Greek mythology described an earlier generation of powerful beings called Titans, and a great prolonged conflict between the Titans and the younger Olympian gods eventually resulted in the Titans' defeat and the Olympians' rise to power. Cronus, leader of the Titans, was said to have swallowed each of his own children at birth, after learning of a prophecy that one would eventually overthrow him, a fate he only narrowly failed to prevent when his youngest son was hidden away and grew up to fulfill exactly that prophecy. Atlas, one of the Titans on the losing side of that great conflict, was condemned as punishment to bear the weight of the sky upon his shoulders for eternity, an image that has endured in art and language ever since as a symbol of an immense, unending burden. Prometheus, a Titan who sided with humanity, was said to have stolen fire from the gods and given it to mortals, a defiant act of generosity for which he was punished severely, chained to a mountain where his liver was eternally devoured and regrown each day. Sisyphus, a cunning mortal king who attempted to cheat death itself, was condemned in the underworld to an eternal, futile punishment, forever pushing a heavy boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down again each time he neared the top. Tantalus, punished for offenses against the gods, was made to stand in a pool of water beneath a fruit tree, eternally thirsty and hungry, the water and fruit always retreating just out of his reach whenever he attempted to drink or eat. The myth of Narcissus, a strikingly handsome young man who fell hopelessly in love with his own reflection in a pool of water, unable to look away until he wasted away entirely, gave rise to the modern word still used today to describe excessive self-admiration. Echo, a nymph in that same myth, was cursed to only ever repeat the final words spoken to her, and her own unrequited love for Narcissus eventually left her voice alone, without a body, lingering only as the sound that still carries her name today. Orpheus, a musician whose playing was said to be beautiful enough to charm wild animals and even stones, journeyed into the underworld itself to try to bring his deceased wife back to the world of the living, nearly succeeding before a single backward glance cost him everything. Persephone, daughter of the harvest goddess Demeter, was taken to the underworld by Hades, and her eventual arrangement to divide her time between both worlds became, in Greek mythology, the poetic explanation for the changing of the seasons each year. While Persephone remained in the underworld, her mother Demeter's grief was said to cause the earth to grow cold and barren, and her joyful return each year brought the world back into bloom, a myth deeply tied to the agricultural rhythms of ancient Greek life. The Fates, three goddesses already mentioned who controlled the thread of every mortal life, worked alongside the Furies, fearsome deities of vengeance, who relentlessly pursued those guilty of serious crimes, particularly offenses committed against one's own family. Greek mythology's monsters extended well beyond the Minotaur and Medusa, already described, including the Chimera, a fire-breathing creature combining the parts of a lion, goat, and serpent, eventually defeated by the hero Bellerophon, riding the winged horse, Pegasus. The Cyclops, a race of enormous one-eyed giants, appear memorably in the story of Odysseus, whose crew was trapped in the cave of one such creature and only escaped through a clever, dangerous trick involving wine and a sharpened stake. Sirens, dangerous creatures whose enchanting song lured sailors to their deaths on rocky shores, were famously avoided by Odysseus, who had his crew fill their ears with wax while he himself was bound tightly to his ship's mast to safely hear their song without succumbing to it. Nearby, according to the same epic, sailors also had to navigate between two other dangers: a monstrous, many-headed creature on one side and a deadly whirlpool on the other, a legendary strait so dangerous it gave rise to a lasting expression about being caught between two equally difficult choices. The legendary Amazons, a tribe of fierce warrior women, appear throughout Greek mythology as formidable opponents to several Greek heroes, their society organized in ways ancient Greek storytellers depicted as a striking, deliberate contrast to their own. Centaurs, creatures with the upper body of a man and the lower body of a horse, were generally portrayed as wild and unpredictable, though a few individual centaurs in myth, wise and gentle, served as tutors and mentors to young Greek heroes. Pegasus, the winged horse born from the blood of the slain Medusa, became one of Greek mythology's most enduring images, eventually said to have been transformed into the constellation that still bears his name in the night sky today. The myth of Jason and his crew of Argonauts, who sailed in search of a legendary golden fleece, combined adventure, romance, and betrayal across one of the longer and more elaborate hero journeys in all of Greek mythology. Greek storytelling frequently returned to the theme of hubris, excessive pride or defiance toward the gods, and countless myths serve as cautionary tales about mortals who overstep their place, nearly always meeting consequences precisely proportioned to their arrogance. The city of Corinth, strategically positioned on a narrow strip of land connecting mainland Greece to the Peloponnese, grew wealthy through trade, its geography allowing merchants to avoid a long, dangerous sea voyage around the surrounding coastline entirely. Greek colonists established such an extensive network of settlements across southern Italy and Sicily that the region became known in its own right for its deeply rooted Greek culture, language, and architecture, distinct from the Greek mainland yet closely connected to it. A long, difficult conflict eventually broke out between Athens and Sparta, drawing in allied city-states on both sides. And this prolonged war gradually exhausted and weakened Greek city-states in ways that left them more vulnerable to outside conquest in the centuries that followed. Greek trireme warships were powered by 3 stacked rows of oarsmen working in careful, practiced coordination, and their design prioritized speed and a reinforced bow capable of ramming and disabling enemy vessels during naval combat. Ancient Greek currency, most notably the silver coins minted in Athens, became widely trusted and used far beyond the city's own borders, partly thanks to nearby silver mines that gave Athens a considerable, sustained source of wealth in minted metal. The Agora, a central open marketplace found in nearly every Greek city, served as far more than simply a place of commerce, functioning as a vital social and political gathering space where citizens debated, socialized, and exchanged news alongside their everyday shopping and trade. Ancient Greek clothing was typically simple and practical, consisting mainly of a rectangular piece of cloth draped and fastened around the body in various styles, adjusted according to season, gender, and social occasion. The Greek concept of arete, often translated loosely as excellence or virtue, described the ideal of living up to one's fullest potential, whether in athletic competition, warfare, art, or philosophy, a value deeply embedded throughout Greek culture and storytelling alike. Greek funeral customs typically included ritual mourning, a formal procession, and cremation or burial, accompanied by offerings believed to help ease the deceased's journey into the underworld and ensure they were properly remembered by the living. While most souls in Greek belief faced a fairly neutral afterlife in the underworld, a special paradise called Elysium was reserved for particularly heroic or favored individuals, a peaceful, pleasant realm quite different from the shadowy fate awaiting most other souls. Greek astronomers developed detailed models attempting to explain the movement of the sun, moon, and stars across the sky. And though their early model placed the Earth at the center of the universe, their careful, systematic observations laid important groundwork for centuries of astronomical study that followed. Archimedes, a brilliant Greek mathematician and inventor, is credited with numerous discoveries in physics and engineering, including principles related to buoyancy and leverage, reportedly declaring that given a long enough lever, he could move the entire world. Greek theatrical performances traditionally included a chorus, a group of performers who commented on the unfolding action, offered moral or emotional context, and helped guide the audience's understanding of the central drama taking place before them. The lyre, a stringed instrument closely associated with the god Apollo, was central to Greek musical tradition, accompanying poetry, recitations, and providing music at both religious ceremonies and casual social gatherings alike. Delphi's temple complex extended well beyond the oracle's chamber itself, including treasuries built by various city-states to house offerings, and a theater and stadium used during regularly held athletic and artistic competitions honoring Apollo. The Pythia, the priestess who delivered the oracle's prophecies at Delphi, was said to enter a trance-like state before speaking, her words often ambiguous or riddling enough that they required careful, sometimes contested interpretation by those who had traveled to consult her. Sparta relied heavily on an enslaved population known as helots to manage agricultural labor, freeing Spartan citizens to dedicate themselves almost entirely to military training, a social structure that also left Sparta in a state of near constant, watchful concern over potential helot uprising. Athens organized a wide alliance of Greek city-states, initially formed for mutual protection against outside threats. And this alliance's shared treasury eventually funded much of Athens's own ambitious building projects, a shift that caused growing resentment among its allied members over time. Beyond Plato and Aristotle, later Greek philosophy produced several influential schools of thought, including one emphasizing calm acceptance of what lies beyond one's control, and another centered on finding contentment through simple, modest pleasure and the avoidance of unnecessary anxiety. One particularly unconventional philosopher was said to have lived with deliberate simplicity, rejecting material comforts entirely and openly challenging social norms and expectations, using memorable, sometimes theatrical, public behavior to make his philosophical points. The ancient Olympic Games included events like running, wrestling, boxing, discus, and javelin throwing, and long jump, alongside the especially prestigious and dangerous chariot racing competition, each drawing considerable prestige and honor for the victors. The Greek city-state itself, known as the polis, functioned as far more than a simple political unit, representing a deeply held cultural identity that shaped how citizens understood their own responsibilities, loyalty, and place within the wider Greek world. Women, though largely excluded from formal Greek political life, held important religious roles as priestesses in various cults and temples, positions that carried genuine social respect and, in some cases, considerable influence within their community's religious life. Ancient Greek education for young children typically began at home under the guidance of a household slave or family member, before wealthier families sent boys onward to more formal instruction covering reading, writing, poetry, music, and physical training in preparation for adult civic life. Greek symposiums, the formal drinking gatherings mentioned earlier, followed careful customs and etiquette, including a designated leader who determined how diluted the wine would be served and set the pace and tone for the evening's conversation and entertainment. Board games and dice games were popular pastimes across ancient Greek society, and archaeological finds include gaming pieces and boards recovered from households of varying wealth, suggesting these games were enjoyed broadly rather than being reserved solely for the wealthy. Ancient Greek medicine, alongside the more scientifically grounded tradition associated with Hippocrates, still incorporated religious elements, and many sick or injured people traveled to healing temples dedicated to the god of medicine, seeking cures through a combination of ritual, rest, and priestly guidance. The Greek god of medicine and healing was said to be capable of raising the dead in some myths, an ability so threatening to the natural order that Zeus himself was said to have intervened, and temples dedicated to this healing god became important centers of both worship and early medical practice. Greek mythology described a great flood myth, remarkably similar in structure to flood stories found in several other ancient cultures around the world, in which a virtuous mortal couple survived a divine punishment meant to cleanse a corrupted world, later repopulating humanity. Ancient Greek pottery served practical purposes well beyond simple storage, and distinct shapes were designed for very specific uses, including wide, shallow vessels for mixing wine with water, and narrow, elegant containers specifically intended for pouring oil. Greek athletes preparing for competition typically trained at a dedicated facility combining exercise space with areas for bathing, socializing, and intellectual discussion, reflecting once again the broader Greek cultural ideal, balancing physical and mental development together. The philosopher Diogenes, associated with a school of thought emphasizing radical simplicity, was said to have lived in a large ceramic storage jar and famously carried a lit lamp during the daytime, claiming to be in search of a single honest person. Greek mythology stories were passed down for generations through oral performance before being widely written down, and traveling poets recited lengthy epic tales from memory, adjusting and embellishing details slightly with each individual performance and audience. The Greek concept of the underworld included distinct regions beyond the standard afterlife already described, including a deep, dark abyss reserved specifically for the most severe punishment, said to lie as far beneath the underworld as the earth lies beneath the sky above. Ancient Greek city-states occasionally formed temporary alliances called leagues for mutual defense or shared religious purposes, loose political structures that offered some coordination between independent city-states without fully sacrificing each one's cherished individual autonomy. The philosopher Aristotle's wide-ranging work extended well beyond ethics and politics into biology, physics, and logic, and his careful, systematic approach to categorizing the natural world influenced scientific thinking for well over 1,000 years after his death. Greek mythology's heroes were frequently described as having one divine parent and one mortal parent, a status that granted them extraordinary abilities while still leaving them vulnerable to mortal death. A recurring narrative tension found throughout many of the era's most famous stories. The city of Thebes, another significant Greek city-state, features prominently in its own rich cycle of mythology, including the tragic story of a king who unknowingly fulfilled a terrible prophecy despite every effort made to avoid it. Ancient Greek religious sacrifice typically involved offering a portion of an animal to the gods, often by burning it so the smoke might rise toward the heavens, while the remaining meat was shared and eaten by the human participants in a communal feast. Greek mythology and history remained closely intertwined in the ancient Greek imagination, and many prominent families and even entire city-states claimed direct mythological descent from specific gods or legendary heroes, a claim that carried genuine social and political weight. The philosopher Socrates was ultimately sentenced to death by his own city of Athens, accused of corrupting the young through his persistent questioning of accepted beliefs, a famous and still widely studied example of the tension between free inquiry and civic order. Ancient Greek women, despite their limited formal political role, managed considerable responsibility within the household, overseeing domestic production, managing enslaved household workers, and raising children according to the values and expectations of their particular city-state. Greek mythology's influence extended into everyday language in ways still visible today. and words describing panic, echo, and even ordinary atlases used for maps all trace their origins directly back to specific figures from ancient Greek myth. The philosopher Pythagoras led a community that combined mathematical study with distinctive spiritual and dietary beliefs, including a conviction that numbers themselves held a kind of deep, sacred significance underlying the entire structure of the universe. And so tonight, we leave ancient Greece exactly where its own story so often began, beneath a wide sky, on a wine-dark sea, gods and mortals alike quietly going about their own long, unfinished stories. The same warm Aegean waters that once carried triremes between scattered island city-states are, right now, simply moving quietly beneath a dark sky, tide rising and falling exactly as it always has. Somewhere, an old marble column is settling further into the earth, and none of it needs anything from you right now except your rest. You've drifted tonight through temples and myths, through heroes and philosophers, past gods who watched from a cloud-wrapped mountain, and mortals who built marble cities in their honor. The whole vast, quiet story of ancient Greece, resting now beneath centuries of sun and story alike. Let it hold you now, the way it's always held everything else. Let your breathing settle into its own slow rhythm. There's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to understand tonight. Just this quiet history and this quiet rest, drifting gently together in the dark. Sleep well, and I'll see you next time for another 100 facts, drifting softly into sleep.